Welcome to the Your Next Move podcast with Kimberly Brown. Today, we are going to talk about personal and professional development. If you've read my book, I have an entire chapter dedicated to my experience in personal and professional development because you don't know what you don't know in the workplace. We have this notion, many of us, that we are taught, especially if you have baby boomer parents, that you get into a job and you just work your way up year after year, head down, just grinding. And if you work really, really hard, someone is going to realize it and promote you. But sometimes that's not what happens. It's unacceptable, in my opinion, to be in the same place year after year with no change in your own personal and professional growth, especially if you are unsure, unclear, not knowing what your next steps are. I tell people when you go to events, so let's say it's a conference or a meeting, you never want to go back to that place in the same exact place you were last time you were there. And the same thing in the workplace. When the clock strikes 12 on New Year's, you want to make sure that you are moving forward. I was first introduced to personal and professional development in my first career development job, oddly enough. There was a conference that was coming up and my coworker and I wanted to go. So you hear about my best friend Amber in the book several times. So Amber and I knew that we wanted to go to this conference, but the university said we could only go to the conference if we presented. They didn't want you to just go and attend, you had to present. So when we looked at our body of work, we thought about what would be a really interesting study where we can share something and also learn in the workplace. So we put up a study testing student learning and we submitted it to be able to speak at the conference and we got accepted. Now, when we went to this conference, for us, it was life-changing. We were able to meet people just like us from all over New York State. The name of the organization was called NYSEA, the New York State Cooperative and Experiential Education Association. I was nervous I wasn't going to get that right, but NYSEA is what we call it. So we went to the conference, we presented, and I remember we had a whole deck together, a whole presentation. And after we were done, people had questions. People waited in line to learn more about us. We also attended all of these other sessions that really impacted our work and literally taught us how to do our job better. We saw people of different levels, different size universities, and it taught us so much about our industry. We literally felt like we didn't know anyone outside of our university who did what we did at that time. So fast forward to the next morning after we presented at that conference, Amber and I were having breakfast and we were by ourselves just hanging out because we didn't really know anyone yet. So for breakfast, we just hung out together and a few members of the board sat down next to us and said, "Hey, we heard about your presentation. Have you ever thought about serving on our board?" And we didn't think that that would ever be something that we would do. And we said, no. This was now in hindsight, we both know we were voluntold. So we volunteered, but we were told to volunteer to serve on the board. But both of us ended up serving on that board for years and years and years. I started in a director of publicity role where I ran the social media for the organization. So we had monthly meetings. I helped plan for the conference. And the next year at the next conference, so because I was on the board, I was able to naturally attend the conference the following year. I got voluntold again to be vice president and conference chair, where I ran the entire conference for the organization in New York State and subsequently went on to serve as president and past president. When I think about personal and professional organizations, it has done so much to teach me about my industry, help me connect with mentors, sponsors, teachers, and really improve my work every single day. I was excited for it just to be a work trip, but it ended up being transformational in my career. When you're connected with people from different universities or different organizations, it can catapult your career faster. In my book, another chapter that I love is called Relationships Are Still Everything. And if you are someone who does not have mentors, teachers, sponsors, coaches, colleagues outside of your company, professional associations is one of the fastest ways to get connected with professionals who are like-minded and in the same place. Think about it this way. If someone is spending their free time learning more about how to do their job on their own accord, they are probably someone who's highly motivated and is a high achiever who would probably be really great for you to speak to and spend more time and attention with. When I think about professional organizations, the next thing that I always share with folks that there is a financial investment, and that investment can be a little bit nerve-wracking. But fun fact for you is that I've paid for all of my professional development up until about 2016. So meaning that every conference I attended, every organization where I paid dues for, I physically came out of pocket because I knew I wanted to move in different circles in my career. Because of my involvement in professional associations, first it was NICEA, then it was another organization called Minnesapoa, then it was EACE, so Eastern ACE, and it was NACE, so many organizations in higher education that I've been a part of. And if you're interested, let me know. I can probably link some resources of professional associations that you may be interested in based upon your field. But those organizations connected me with different employers and subsequently helped me get interviews in new universities. So I knew that by interacting in these circles, I would then be able to get other jobs, and I did. Most of the jobs I've received in my career are from networking, from meeting people at professional associations. So back to that cost. If you are listening to this podcast and you are currently a student or a recent graduate, there are generally rates that you can get that are significantly cheaper so that you can have a seat at that organization. There are conferences, there are workshops. I highly recommend that you find whatever can potentially work for you if you are excited about moving up in the world of work. If you have a little bit more money to invest, I definitely recommend attending an annual conference or a biannual event that's much larger so you can get a lot of bang for your buck and meet a lot of different people. Yes, you're paying for the registration, probably flight, hotel, but for me personally, I've found that they have paid me back 10 times over the span of my career. And every dime I invested, I made back when I negotiated higher salaries, either in my current role or in the next role that I moved into. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go broke, trying to learn how to do your job better, but I am asking that you do 3 things. So find out if your employer has a professional development fund. Many organizations have a professional development fund that allows you to go to conferences and events. And fun fact, after working in human resources, a lot of people don't leverage this money. Sometimes it could be as small as $100, $300. Sometimes it can be up to $1,000 a year. Or they have reimbursement if you want to go and take a certificate course or something like that. Find out what your reimbursement looks like at your employer. Number 2, I want you to determine what gap you have in the workplace and figure out how you can fill that gap by connecting with a professional association. There are professional associations like National Sales Network, National Association of Black Accountants. There's so many different organizations. Do you need to go to network to find mentors, to have sponsors, or is there a work gap that you need to learn? So how to use a new software, how to have better presentation skills and public speaking in the workplace. What is the gap that needs to be addressed, and how can you connect that to a workshop, conference, or training so you're making the most bang for your buck? And last but not least, when you get the opportunity to participate, whether you're paying for yourself or it's employer sponsored, show up fully and make sure that you embrace the opportunity and you hold yourself accountable for coming back a different person the next time you attend that event, or at least when you walk into the office the next time. Personal and professional development is something that is crucial to your success and to your upward mobility in and outside of your organization. So with that, may your next move be your very best move, and I look forward to talking to you soon. I had to go hard or go home. Once you start paying taxes on your business, for me, that was like, I need to make a decision. So I'm not going to be paying taxes for something that's just a fun hobby.